What's up, everybody? Arrg the Pirate here, and today I'm going to give kind of my impressions and just all-around thoughts of version 42. Now, I've talked to a lot of the pirate crew members, and I even have a couple of buddies that have just played a couple of matches, and I was able to sit them down and say, hey guys, jump back into Paragon, let me know what you think. And I've had some mixed responses and, you know, just all-around feeling. So I'm not coming from just a long-time player that has spent a ton of time in the older systems, and then, you know, this new system is popping up and it's confusing me and hurting my feelings. That's not really where I'm coming from. I'm just kind of, I want to talk about a lot of the things that have changed and kind of give my just thoughts and opinions about it, and hopefully maybe Epic will, you know, adjust some of the changes that have came out. Now, I don't really want to talk about balancing. I think balancing is just completely ruined right now. We've got heroes like Kalari that, you know, can one-shot in, you know, pretty much anybody once she gets fed. Same with a hero like Countess, although Countess is more about using an ability, so she relies on, she can only do it once a minute, whereas a hero like Kalari can do it, you know, every 8 seconds or whatever the time is. And it's really, you know, the balance is very kind of goofy right now, and I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the core issues. This leads me to my first point, and that is the role changes. Now, we still have just the exact same roles. You've got a, you know, a support, ADC, jungler, mid laner, and off laner, but the internal roles of these positions have changed, and I would say the jungle is the biggest change. Now, in the jungle, you can clear all 3 of the safe lane side jungle camps and get green buff, and still have about 15 seconds before the river buff spawns in. Now, this is a giant change. It's just an absolutely huge change, and I don't really feel engaged when I'm in the jungle. A lot of the times, whenever I'm clearing a jungle camp, as you see here, I'm playing this crunch match, I'm not even looking around. I'm just beating this camp, and then later in the match, when I am kind of saying, hey, where am I going to rotate, I'll actually look around, and instead of using the mini-map to tell where enemies are, I actually just look around and look for health bars. And, you know, this really just says, hey, the jungle is not engaging at all. You can stand there, you take very little jungle damage. Even heroes without sustain, such as Crunch, you take such small amount of damage that you really don't have to kite at all. And you can actually use this time to either communicate with your team, or actually look for potential ganks, or study the pattern of how heroes play. If they're advancing too much, and you can say, hey, you know, every 10 seconds she gets really aggressive, so on, you know, at 30 seconds I'm going to make sure I'm over there so she's advanced too far and I'll kill her. That's kind of, you know, the issue I'm having with the jungle. It just really seems way too easy to pick up that jungle role, and there's not a whole lot of skill involved. If you're playing a hero such as Kalari with a sustain, there's zero reason to ever even attempt to kite minions. That leads me into the offlane. Now, the offlane has changed because you don't have those great sustain cards for your first card anymore, especially if you want to pick up another card that will maybe help, you know, get you higher level or get you more gold, things like that, to kind of keep you in farm. You really have a choice between keeping up farm or picking a great sustain card, which you can do with gems, and I'm going to kind of talk about cards and gems here in a little bit. But the issue I'm having is the offlane cannot stay in the offlane really at all. If they ever leave their tower, they're going to take damage and not be able to regen that health back fast enough to where they can't back out. And now, getting your first 3 starter cards is so important that you almost want to back. And since damage has been reduced so much that, hey, you're not really worried about getting that super early game damage on your tower And hey, if they down it at 5 to 10 minutes, you know, hey, it's no big deal, like it's always been. But you're no longer going, hey, I need to stay in my lane and protect my tower for a little bit. Now it's like, hey, I got my cards, or I got enough gold, let me go back and get my cards. I also see safe lane towers actually outlasting the offlane tower, which I guess I'm gonna have to explain that a little bit better, because it even confused me whenever I said it. But so say you're in the safe lane, you're playing Twin Blast and you're going against a Fang. Fang is going to down your tower before you're able to down his tower. Now, this is strictly coming from lower level matches, and y'all have to realize I've been playing a ton with my subs, and most of my subs are in that silver range, so I'm not really talking about the gold range, which the majority of Paragon players are in, you know, low gold to silver. You don't have a whole lot of, you know, the platinum players or the high gold players. That's, you know, the top 3-4% of players. I'm really focused on the other 97% of players, and it is much more difficult for these 97% of Paragon players to safely maintain the ADC role compared to how it used to be. And you know, this is I think it's a very good change. When I do play with my higher level players, it feels okay. I still feel ADCs are a little underpowered, or underpowered for the beginning game, but the whole system of the safe lane turns into the, hey, I need a gank over here because I'm being pushed back by, you know, the offlaner. That does not feel good to me. Next, I'd want to talk about the general speed of version 42 Paragon. I feel that the speed is entirely too fast for newer players, as well as players like me who have supported this game for a very long time. I feel that it is too fast, and I'm not sure who this is appealing to. Is this appealing to a completely new audience that doesn't like MOBAs, and they're trying to get them into Paragon? Because I can honestly say, I've got a couple of buddies that I convinced to come back to 42 and they still don't like it. Or is this appealing to just people that were saying, hey, matches were too long? Because I've got to say, if they didn't like Paragon because the matches were too long, they're clearly not a MOBA fan. So I don't really know who this speed is really appealing to. I don't like the fact that the minions run as fast as they do and attack as fast as they do. It really feels that you can no longer set a lane, rotate, and feel comfortable with that lane, especially with the cards that you can flip lanes. You know, I found that you need to stay in lane a lot more than you used to. Team fights have kind of gone away with, you know, the lack of vision, but again, I'm going to talk about that kind of thing a little later on. But if I can set a lane, get this massive minion wave to push to you, all you have to do is walk over there and reset it. That's going to cause me to have to go over there and deal with this, you know, triple the size wave as what it should be, and that's going to pull me out of lane, or out of the ability to fight and get in some sort of team engagement, and it just does not feel good to me. The speed of the new Paragon, I'm not a big fan of it. Now, this also includes attack speed. I would much rather attack slow and hit harder than attack crazy fast and hit, you know, tickle fight people. The ADCs feel very weak to me in early game, which is, you know, that's okay, but when you start hitting for 40 damage on a hero at level 1, that just does not feel good when the support standing next to you is hitting for about the same. And you know, I've played a couple of matches with Twin Blast, and he just feels just so weak in the beginning, but when he finally does come alive, he's incredibly, incredibly strong. But at the same time, I feel just so weak in the beginning that, you know, games are tending to end before you get to end game. So you don't really get to come alive as an ADC until the match is already over. And that does not feel good. I think the whole just pace of Paragon really needs to kind of be slowed down. I do like the 25-minute games, but I didn't have a problem with the 45-minute games. So I really don't see who this is appealing to, and I have to honestly say I'm not a fan of just the speed in general. Now, I do have to hand it to you guys at Epic. Y'all did exactly what you said you were going to do, and I think you nailed that on the head. Everything you said, you know, this was going to be a massive change, and it's, you know, huge and this and that. You did exactly what you said. You said, hey, we're going to allow teams to really snowball, and I think that's there. I don't think it's quite as there as y'all led us to believe, but it is definitely there. And I appreciate you keeping your word, but it does not feel good either. So if you've been in a 15-minute match, which I've been on the receiving and on the giving end of a 15-minute match, it does not feel fun. It's when you are able to one-shot heroes, it feels bad. You know, you're like, oh yeah, I got that guy. Oh, great. But when after the third time, you're like, oh, this isn't even fun. They're turning away and running from me, and I would do the same thing because I'm going to slaughter them. That's not fun for anybody. That is not an enjoyable experience. And it's much the same when you have a 55-minute game, which I've actually had a 55-minute game, and the end game turns into just this unfun mess where everybody's so entirely fed that when an engagement starts, someone dies within half a second, and then both teams split up. You know, that was a special circumstance, and I was playing with my lower level subs, and it felt bad. That's the only game that I've ever played where we were winning and I wanted to quit. And that's really got to say something. The winning team is getting tired of playing because it's not enjoyable. That should not exist within Paragon, and unfortunately, I really feel it does now. Now, my last 2 points kind of go hand in hand, and the first being the card system. Of course, like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't want to really focus on the overpowered cards and things like that. These are small balancing issues, which they feel huge right now, but they're small balancing issues that will be worked out. It's unfortunate that it makes things unenjoyable when they're broken the way they are now, but give it a week or two and they will fix the issues, I'm sure of it. But besides that, the card system feels less customizable to me than the old system. You know, of course you just went, what are you talking about, Pirate? That's insane. There's all these crazy cards you can get. Yeah, there are, but you know, let's say I want this card. I want Veil Stepper. I want to walk through shadow wall or fog walls and go invisible for 3 seconds. I really want that ability, but I don't want power and attack speed, which is what I believe is on it. Let's say I want health and basic armor. I can't do that. If I want this ability, I am stuck with what it has, and I don't really enjoy that. You know, I would like to be able to customize this card to, let's say I want to build a bruiser jungler with Shadow Veil on, or Veil Stepper on, and hey, I'm going to keep this card for in-game, so I'm going to put some armor on it instead of having, you know, this attack speed and things like that. This will also be, you know, it's a beginning card, but it's also going to be an in-game card because I don't want to get rid of it. I can't do that. And so I really feel that customization has kind of gone away. Now, at the same time, I kind of feel that uniqueness of decks has gone away. Of course, everybody built ADCs the exact same in you know, prior 42, but everybody kind of got there differently. Some people would, everybody built, close to 60% crit, or 60% crit chance anyways. And some people use Red Eye Nitro, some people use, Spear of the Rift Hunter. There were several options that you could pick to actually get there. And that really affected how you scaled in the beginning. But now there's, since I was talking about ADC, there's a handful of cards that you see on every single ADC, and they really build kind of all the exact same. And you're saying, hey, Arrg, it's the first week, people haven't figured things out yet, and there's not just a whole massive amount of cards yet. And yeah, that's also true, but the new cards that are going to come out are going to suffer the same thing. There's going to be cards that are way better and that ADCs typically use. Sure, they might go about getting to that card a little bit differently, but when you are limited to 12 cards, and if you want to have 3 cards for that really, really late game, just in case you do have those 40-minute matches, you're really limited to 9 cards. So it's not really just crazy customizable. Pretty much everybody's going to build the same. Of course, there is a little variation there, but I don't feel it. I don't really feel that, oh wow, I need to go look at this Kalari. She's clearly building something that I haven't seen before. Or, oh, I need to go look at this Twin Blast or this Grux. They're building cards that I've just never even heard of. That's really not the case. Everybody's kind of building the same cards on all different roles. Another thing about the card system is the mid-game cards are very lacking. You have these 4 or 5 point cards, and none of them feel good. Some of them feel better than others, and the ones that do feel better than others are the ones everybody's using. There is no variety at all in the mid-game cards. For death, if you're a caster, you've got Invader Mage. If you're death and you're a jungler, you've got Shadow or Veil Stepper. Those cards are a necessity on those type of heroes, and everybody that's using that affinity will use those cards. So there's really not a whole lot of variety there in mid-game. Now, Masteries is going to be kind of my last topic I want to talk about. I don't want to make a 45-minute video, but this is kind of the biggest problem that I see with Paragon. Of course, the card system is a big one, but right now, Masteries and Mastery costs are just out of control, and they're unacceptable. Spending $500,000 or 500,000 rep to get a single mastery, and then in 4 or 5 games later you have to spend 100,000 to go up to the next rank. No hero wants to do that, and you're asking brand new heroes that just started playing the game to have to play 100 matches or so before they can get their first mastery. And that means without getting those masteries and leveling those heroes up, you're not going to get any cards, except these random ones that you'll get, or, completing the dailies. But since you're not progressing with any heroes, without that progression, you don't want to play Paragon anymore. You're going, hey, I'm not getting anything out of playing this. You get this big red flash that says, lost experience. That does not make anybody in the entire planet feel good when you say, hey, you just spent 30 minutes playing this game, no matter how good you did, lost experience. That makes everybody feel bad. So, Masteries need to be looked at again. I really think that everybody should get a Mastery. You should get to level up to level 1 for free. After that, sure, make it 100,000 rep or 200 or whatever, but at least let us get a single level on a hero. That way we can figure out if we like it. If you charge me 500,000 rep to just figure out if I like a hero or not, I'm not going to play them. And to be quite honest, I don't think anybody would. You're discouraging new players from enjoying things within Paragon. and that should never be a priority. Now, along with the Masteries, you are really limiting new players with getting cards. And so they're going against people that, you know, they might be the same ELO, because I want to say you start out about 1200 ELO. Of course, this is the Agora score because y'all hide yours. If you start out at about 1200, and most heroes that are brand new to MOBAs or brand new to Paragon probably drop down to 1100 before they actually start showing some progress. So in that 12 to 1100 range, or 12 to 1000 ELO range, you're not getting enough rep and things like that to actually build decent decks. And with deck building being such a critical part of version 42, you can never be as good as a gold player that has all the cards. Regardless of skill, you can't be as good as him because he's got better cards than you. In version 41 and before, there were a lot of times I would go into games and use the starter deck just to show people. I've got several videos on it. I would just show people, hey, you can do very well with the starter deck. You can't do that anymore. Starter decks are terrible. You can't build decks, and the amount of RNG with getting these early and late game cards, getting the right affinities, and just everything like that, since they took away universal cards, you're alienating every new player that comes to Paragon, and you're telling them, hey, if you don't have 200 games under your belt, you're not going to be able to even buy a mastery or play the hero that you want with a decent deck. And this is just very bad, and it feels bad. And so all the newer heroes that I've been playing with, or the newcomers to Paragon, I'm like, hey, you know, pick up these cards, and they're, hey, I don't have that card. Oh, okay, we can figure something out. Pick up this card. I don't have that card. Well, what cards do you have? Well, I've got this one, and this one. It's like, oh, wow, you can't build a deck. I guess just go starter. And, you know, yeah, Paragon, or, yeah, Epic, we've got to fix this. You have to know it. It's been a week since 42 came out, and you have to realize that this is a problem. Now, the final thing that I want to bring up is boosters. And boosters are, they've always felt like, they've never felt like a necessity. They've always felt like, hey, they're there, and if you want them, you can get them. You know, they helped out when you were low level or early to, hey, get some rep, get some cards. I personally never really bought a whole lot of boosters. I would kind of just wait till I had enough gold from opening up chests and whatnot. And I've never really bought card packs, you know, but after I first started playing, and so I would buy boosters with them. I've never really bought any skins or anything like that because I'm not just huge into the cosmetics, but boosters now almost feel like a necessity if you are a new player. So I kind of have an issue with this. You know, I've spent a fortune on Paragon. I've spent more money on Paragon than I have on AAA titles with full releases that have expansions and season passes. You know, I've spent a decent amount of money on Paragon buying the epic packs and things like that, and I did that because I want to support Paragon. I'm not doing that because I want the new skin. And the issue I'm having now is I never felt forced to buy rep boosters, but now as a new player, I've had several of my subs say, hey man, what do you think about getting a rep booster so I can get a mastery? I've never felt that type of pressure whenever I first started playing Paragon, and now that I almost feel that pressure as a, you know, I believe I'm level 93 on my main account, and I have all the masteries. I was able to take all of my master heroes up to level 11, and you know, I think I'm at like 300,000 rep total now. And so if I want to get another hero from 9 to 10, I'm going to have to go farm a ton of games, and that just feels bad. And so I'm almost pressured into buying these rep boosters, and that's not what I want to. That's not the experience I want to feel when playing Paragon. Well, that's going to kind of wrap it up for this version 42, I guess, critique video. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I would really like to know y'all's feedback on everything that I talked about. Please let me know down in the comments, and maybe we can get some attention from Epic with this. Well, thanks for watching, guys. As always, show me some love, leave me a comment, think about subscribing, and I'll see y'all in the next video.